nomination for a clerk for this event.
I nominate Kathy DuPont.
Pardon me?
Nominate Kathy.
Kathy DuPont, I have a nomination for Kathy DuPont. I have a second. Is there any discussion or are there any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, I will call the vote. All in favor, simply raise your hand and indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. I'm going to call that unanimous, Kathy. Next item is to elect or nominate a moderator for tonight's meeting. Do I have a nomination? I have a nomination by Ed Rowan. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I have a second by Scott. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll call that unanimous also, Kathy. Thank you. So, before we proceed a little bit, I know this is a very hot topic, so to speak, in town. And there's a lot of emotions riding in it pretty high. Let's keep this very civil, okay? Everybody in this room are friends, taxpayers, residents of our town. So let's show one another the respect that we deserve as we proceed. Also, in order to get through this meeting, because we have many here, we want to be able to answer all your questions. Okay? I have the engineer here, this is a design that is not anywhere near complete. This is conceptual, so there can be questions about it, and if you need to ask them, we'll be happy to answer them. I also have individuals here from our staff at the Councils of Government, which was involved in this as well, so we will direct questions to them as well. That said, being the moderator, you ask me the question, and I will direct it to someone to provide the answer. We also have our town attorneys here if we need to, by the way. So let's keep it civil, and let's keep it short, because we want to get out of here sometime tonight, I would think, all right? So let's limit our questions to no more than 2 from any one individual, and keep the questions very brief, no more than, say, 3 minutes. Agreed? Very good. So we'll now call this meeting of the town meeting to order. Our first order of business is to read the call of the meeting. Rich, would you please read the call?
Town of Thomaston. Warning of special town meeting, October 22nd, 2025, 7 p.m. Town Hall, Meeting Morton Gallery. The electors and those persons eligible to vote in town meetings of the town of Thomaston, Connecticut are hereby warned and notified that a special town meeting will be held in the Town Hall in the Lena Morton Gallery, 158 Main Street, Thomaston, Connecticut, on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025, for the following purpose. Item 1. As recommended by the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen, to appropriate an amount not to exceed $171,758 as follows. $25,291 from insurance, $83,652 from medical life insurance, $55,931 from retiree medical insurance, and $6,884 from fire hydrants, and to allocate said $171,758 as follows. $36,170 to elections, $28,622 to legal, $20,915 to retirement employees, and $86,051 to education, and to authorize the First Selectman and the Board of Selectmen to execute all documents and take all actions necessary or convenient for said transfers. Item 2. Shall the Greenway portion of the Elm Street Load Sip project, as depicted on the most recent plans from Ty and Bond, be rescinded and omitted from that project? Copies of the full text of each resolution are on file and available for inspection at the office of the town clerk, dated at Thomaston, Connecticut, this 7th day of October, 2025.
Thank you. So, That was the fall for our meeting, you all know why you're here anyways. But that's just one of those technicalities that we need to do, so that everybody is fully informed as to why and what we're talking about. We have, oh, you can't hear me? No. All right. So, first item of business, we will do simply again on a voice vote. Customarily, this is a matter in which we may have 10 or 12 people in the room to deal with. This is an unusual circumstance. But in order to move this along, and I don't expect much controversy here, albeit we will have questions under discussion. Okay? But the first thing I need to do is ask for a motion. Rich, please read the motion and make that said motion.
So I make a motion as recommended by the by the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen to appropriate an amount not to exceed $171,758 as follows: $25,291 from insurance, $83,652 from medical life insurance, $55,931 from retiree medical insurance, and $6,884 from fire hydrants, and to allocate said $171,758 as follows: $36,170 to elections, $28,622 to legal, $20,915 to retirement employees, and $86,051 to education, and to authorize the first selectman and the Board of Selectmen to execute all documents and take all necessary actions or convenient for said transfers.
Thank you, Rich. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Joe Kleiner, second. Thank you. Is there any discussion on this matter? Well, hang on, let me get you a microphone.
Could you inform us the $28,000 for legal, exactly what that entails?
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
$28,000 some odd dollars for legal. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Our legal line is a combination of many things. The principal reason I would have to say for that budget overrun on the legal line is as a result, this one's not working right now?
Just closer to your mouth.
I'll get it, I'm sorry, my bad. So the legal line covers a number of legal expenses for the town that the town incurs. Principally, the reason for that overrun is FOI complaints that we have received in our town. The FOI is, you may or may not know, is freedom of information, and people have the right to file freedom of information complaints against the town. Often, in fact, more regularly, in fact, that requires that someone attend a hearing at that FOI commission in order to explain or whatever you may want to call that on behalf of our town. We have legal counsel that does that, and that is principally the reason for our overrun. So unless, Rich, you would like to comment, you know others.
I'll follow up,
Please.
It's my understanding that that will now bring that total up to around $100,000. For which property?
Pardon me?
Mainly what property are you talking about?
We're not talking about any one specific property. It is some properties, but it's also complaints that we get, or FOI complaints. Okay, regarding meetings and how they are agenda read and whether they were in fact correct or not. I can say to you in most cases, as I reviewed them personally, or I had our town attorney who doesn't represent us in FOI, but I've had my town attorney, Mike Rybeck, who's sitting there, review them as well. In most cases, we find that they were really correct. However, once that complaint is filed, the FOI commission must follow through on it. So that requires that we follow.
I understand you've lost several cases at FOI, and there's 5 more pending that you will lose So I'm estimating another $30,000.
I don't know that we'll lose any of them. We will certainly have to attend them to make our case, right, wrong, or otherwise. And again, I emphasize that freedom of information is an important aspect of our town, or top people everywhere in our nation, so that they can ask from their government that documentation that they believe is necessary for them to review. However, at times it can be a bit abusive as well.
The reason for that, though, is basically land use did not give the people the papers they were looking for, which is why it ended up going to freedom of information.
Not always the case. That was certainly something at the onset when this all started multiple years ago. But our folks complied for the most part and complied promptly. Sometimes it takes longer to reply if the request is quite extensive and requires numerous hours of our staff time. So that is the principal reason for the overrun is the FOI complaints, and that goes to the legal line. Rich, would you care to comment on that at all? Paul?
Yeah, I don't have all the line items in my hand right now, so I couldn't speak to them in detail. I can tell you that we did cut the budget this fiscal year with that legal line. We were anticipating being on the other side of some litigation that should have been completed. So we did cut the budget. So this is this fiscal year that we're talking about right here with this amendment is really about the fact that we also cut the budget. I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just saying we did lower that budget by, I believe, at least $20,000 or $30,000.
But are you anticipating another $30,000 to be transferred down the road because of FOI intervention being propelled? Do you have to go back to Hartford?
I believe that, I'm not sure that we had that information when we built this year's budget.
I can only say that we continue to get FOI complaints, and albeit we budgeted as best we can for that, it may or may not. I can't say should actually will not. I can only say we continue to get FOI complaints.
While you're in charge of it,
Yes.
should not these people be given that paperwork so that it doesn't go to Hartford?
And
As you know, let me finish.
right, please.
As you know, I've requested many things from the police department, and they refuse to give me anything. You know it, and I know it. The townspeople should know that this is common practice in the town of Thomaston to withhold information.
I agree.
Whether it be land use,
I excuse me, let me please speak. I can honestly say that we do our very best to comply within the time period that is allowed by FOI to provide the information that's necessary. I'd like to move on from this, please. You can take this up with us at the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance at any time you like. If we have any things on the agenda
about getting information, you've gotten copies, and I don't receive any of the information.
Okay. We spoke to these. Thank you. Any further discussion on the budget transfers? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. With the transfer, the allocation.
Hang on, we're going to give you a microphone. Please say who you are and where you live.
Maureen Torrance.
I know, but
Maureen Torrance. The question is the 83 or the 84,000 for medical and life insurance and the 55,900 for retiree medical insurance. Is that through negotiations or you're reducing the city or the town's contribution to premiums, or is it benefits that changed? Where are you taking the money from?
So you're referring to the 83,652,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yeah.
We are taking money from those accounts
Yeah.
because we are taking money from those accounts because we overestimated how many people in town were going to use those insurances. So we make an estimate when we're putting the budget together to say, we think we have so many people who would be availing themselves of that benefit. So we that's what we put in the budget. So we're actually taking money from there because we budgeted a little too high.
Okay. It just didn't say that, so,
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yep.
and I do have
Yeah.
a adjunct to that.
So is the money that's going to the 20,915 to retirement employees, is that proposed or guessed retirements for this fiscal year of employees that are pending retirement?
This is all for the prior fiscal year that ended June 30th.
So did they retire?
So,
It was the actuary's contribution that we didn't know when we made the budget.
it was actually it was an actuarial contribution that we needed to correct for to make sure that we were putting enough money away for that purpose.
And then the last one to that one, we'll hit them all.
What's the 86,000 going towards the Board of Education?
Thank you. Many, many lines, it wasn't one specific line item.
Many lines.
That's-
Sorry, I'm looking at Tracy. 'Cause,
Tracy.
she knows all. But
Was it just bad,
it
bad
was
bad
several
budgeting on the?
several line items that were, I think, it was a combination of things. Some people took insurance that we didn't think
Is
were
that
going to take
insurance though?
insurance.
It doesn't say insurance though.
No, it's all to the education budget.
Right, so did the superintendent miscalculate her budget and we're now have to put money back into the Board of Ed?
Just like on the other line item I mentioned, there are areas where we do make estimates on what we will need to pay out, and that is similar in that regard. So I
But
don't.
many
so-
line items doesn't really give me much hope that it's just estimates and it can't be all actuarial. Whereas, no.
No, it's not all actuarial.
Okay.
There are parts of it where they did go over budget, yes. And there are parts of it, I am making sure she's going.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm doing that too.
So there are parts of it that did go over budget, but there were also parts that we didn't budget enough money for. Much like health insurance and things like that I described on the town side.
Will we be able to see where that money goes, what line items, because there's too many, they're numerous? It was approved at Board of Ed meetings months ago, so we would have to have that. Okay.
Is it in the manager's report?
Yes,
Yeah. So
not all of us know how to get to these things, so,
that's posted on the Thomaston Schools website.
okay.
Yes.
School website.
Schools, so the Thomaston Schools has their own website, and we're in the process of trying to bring some of the financial related reports over to the town of Thomaston website, so they're also there as well.
A lot of money.
Are there any further questions regarding this matter and the budget transfers? Let me just say, this is customarily something we do every year. There are sometimes unanticipated expenses that you just can't factor in. I think in regard to the school budget, also think that teachers come, teachers go. Okay? We don't necessarily have the same staff and the same requirements for their health care on an annual basis. And or someone may have benefits from their spouse and no longer do. Not on again?
Just hold it.
You have to hold it close to your face.
Hold it to your chin.
So may, yeah, this keeps going off on me. I'm back. Employees may change. Sometimes folks have benefits from their spouse, but no longer do or come to ours because they prefer to be. And as they're being offered to them as employees, those dynamics can change on a year-to-year basis. And that's also part of the fluctuation because we can't, it's going out. It's going out. Which one have a question?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
You want to ask a question?
Actually, I have a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Can I ask you a question that you're going to ask me?
I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, so I'm Rich Solio, 198 Abbott Road. I just want to say one thing. I'm the chairman of the Board of Finance. This fiscal year, we actually, even though we're talking about a lot of puts and takes here and moving money from one side to the other, yes, there were some budget line items that went over, but there were some that were under. Net, we put $183,000 back into our undesignated fund. I think, for me, that's going to be good.
So, are there any further questions on this matter? Any further questions? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the budget transfer? Do you have a question? Item one are budget transfers. This, and as Rich says, what was the final 185 back then?
183.
183 at the end of the year. Essentially, our budget combined, Board of Education town, was in the black, $183,000 at the end of the year that we were able to put back into our undesignated fund balance. To keep a healthy fund balance, I don't want so loud, I keep going out.
You have to hold it closer to your face.
Well, it goes out. It's on, I'm sorry. $183,000 back into the plan. So again, please, if there are no further questions on the ransom, thank you. If there are no further questions, it's going off on me, sir. I'll call the vote. All in favor of the budget transfers as described, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? One abstention. I have one abstention. Kathy, please record. Thank you. Thank you. Sound for more than 30 seconds, I'll be happy. Thank you. All right, so we're through that piece, folks, and thank you for your cooperation on that. Now, this next item, I'm going to ask for a motion on item 2. Julie.
Really?
Please.
Shall the Greenway portion of the Elm Street LoTSIP project, as depicted on the most recent plans from Time Bond, be rescinded and omitted from that project?
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second? And a second, please state your name, sir. Van Hopkins. You got that? Very good. So we have a motion and a second. Now we get into discussion. Before we do that, I was handed a list of questions that folks believe, and this may expedite the matter, and if it does not, that's not to say that you will not continue to have the right to ask your questions, you will. But if this expedites it, I think we will. You're not hearing me. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm joking. So, one of the questions that I'm going to direct to one of our professionals here is, no property will have eminent domain, it says. 7 properties could possibly be affected with an easement following a homeowner to retain the land and enter into a mutually agreed upon fairly compensated arrangement between the landowner and the state of Connecticut. All easements will be paid for by LoTSIP funding, which has already been awarded to their town. This doesn't sound like a question, it sounds more like an answer. I would say, I would call upon our councils of government. Rich, Kevin, would you say that is accurate?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Rich Donovan, the Director of Transportation Planning with the Naugatuck Valley COG, and Kevin Ellis is one of our engineers who helps administer the LoTSIP program. And so, to the point of this, yes, it is correct that there will be no full property takings as far as there just will not be. And any easements, we've been talking about some options to help reduce the couple that there are, but there will be no full takings, and any takings that do happen will be entirely at the, or entirely voluntary and compensated.
The compensation will be discussed by, I'll go there in just a minute, please. Compensation will be, easements will be directed and done by the state of Connecticut on our behalf. There's funds in place for that in the LoTSIP grant to provide compensation for any potential takings that might occur. Again, we're working, as Rich just mentioned, to try to eliminate or reduce them as much as possible. I also have the engineer here, Chris, and I know this is kind of a hot topic for everybody, so Chris will address that as best he can also. Just about.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Leduc. I'm a senior engineer at Time Bond. In addressing the easements, I would say that these are conceptual plans at this point, and we will be looking to minimize easements. A lot of the easements, which are shown on the plans here in red, are 2 to 3 feet in width, with some wider portions at Etheridge Court. And we'll do our best as we go through the design process to reduce them further if we can. It would require some give and take. It would require some give and take because of our constrained widths here on the features we could offer.
Thank you. I'm going to just open up the questions because I looked at this sheet and it looks like more like answers that were compiled by someone else, and I would rather have them addressed by a professional in a room. Okay? So I have a question back here. Would you please ask it? You can ask it to me and I'll send it the right way.
Okay, I would just like someone to discuss the difference between eminent domain and easement.
So, eminent domain is really a legal process. Best person to answer that? Mr. Rutnick, right back. Or Tom Attorney.
Eminent domain is when the government takes property for just compensation by paying the money into court and exercising the right to take the property from the owner for a public purpose. If it can be negotiated, and usually that's what happens with the state of Connecticut, to start out, they will negotiate rights of way, they will negotiate easements. Eminent domain is always the last resort.
The town has no desire to enforce eminent domain. It would seriously delay the project and cost us, as well as you, whomever may want to contest it, legal fees. We see no real value in that. The intent is, once again, the intent is to have the state of Connecticut, if necessary, come out and discuss with you the opportunity to provide an easement to the town of perhaps 2 to 3 feet. And again, please understand, that's conceptual at this point. I have certainly asked Time Bond, our engineers, to eliminate any and all easements if possible. Unfortunately, the configuration of the road and such, and I don't want to be misquoted, will not totally permit that, but we're reducing it as much as possible. A large problem is, as I've been told, because of the utilities on the, what's that? On the south side of the street, on the south side of the street, at least as this map shows, all the utilities are there, all the poles are there. So in order for us to squeeze things over in that direction, which would certainly be desirable, is just unrealistically impossible because of all the electrical work that would have to be moved. And where would that go, incidentally? You know, we'd have to go further into someone's property, or we'd have to eliminate the sidewalk on that side. And at a previous hearing, we heard that folks wanted sidewalks on both sides and also wanted on-street parking. So after hearing that, we worked as best we could to accommodate those desires while still trying to maintain a greenway on Elm Street. A greenway, incidentally, through the funding that we have in place, would be totally paid for. The funding I have at this point is roughly $4,700,000. If we find, when we get closer to this point of going out to bid, it's more money than 20% more, I think. Is that correct, Kevin? 20% more, Rich, than what is projected. We can go back and ask for more funding and receive it. But at this point in time, we have a commitment for, I can tell you exactly, I wrote it down, We have a commitment for $4,638,400 to do the Elm Street project through Lewis. I'll be back to you in just a moment. I have a question over here first. Cindy, is it? I don't have my glasses on. I see him right, Cindy?
Hi, Cindy DeLong, Grove Street, Thomaston. First of all, this, well, yeah, I should be able to comment too. We weren't told that this was only questions. I was at the last meeting. I'm sure a lot of people are here because of this. You ran the meeting and said, whatever we decide tonight, that's it. That's what's going to happen, yes or no. Then some people, a few people, squawked at the back. They were on the Greenway committee. And they're going, let's do a town vote. Let's do a town vote. And you said yes. The next thing, you and Mike Burr and Jeff Dunn voted to take this number 2 on your own without the town's people having any say on it. And that was unfair to everybody. That was not fair. You, sir, well, if you could ask the fellow with the glasses that spoke first, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, Rich. He says eminent domain means they'll take all your property, so it's not. Is that what the statement was? No, I know, that's what I said. But yet they still want to take property and the easements and that, if we could shorten them, if we could do that. And the people that live on Elm Street, they don't want it to begin with, then if, and that doesn't mean we're promising to shorten them or do anything. It's a very big if, and I think the people of the town are disappointed and not happy about this.
Not true.
Okay, so we are here this evening to decide this. Whatever is decided this evening will be the plan going forward. I appreciate whatever your comments were. We heard them. We heard them before. And you're entitled to them, certainly. Questions, please. What we'd like to do. Yes, Kathy?
Hello?
Up in the balcony?
Hello?
Let me get those who are down here first, and then we'll try to get you guys up there as well. You're going to have to, because we have no microphone up there, you're going to simply have to speak loud. I think that'll work. I hope. Let me get my glasses. All right. Well, let me get the other folks first. Okay?
Just stand up and get mine, right? You just stand up and get mine.
Yeah, my name is Nancy Bidget. I'm from Walnut Hill in Thomaston. And I hear that there will be no eminent domain, but at the same time, everybody is saying that that's the last thing that you want. Whether you want it or not, the residents of Elm Street, if they don't voluntarily agree to these agreements that are posted on your paper, then what is your next step? It will be eminent domain. So you have to make sure that these families realize that they really don't have an option. They vote tonight, yes, to cancel the Greenway, then they save their property. If they vote no, even though you're saying no eminent domain is wanted, it still may happen. My second question is, and that was a statement, my second question is, I hear a sliver of land. I see the definition as a sliver, 1 to 3 feet. Is that from the current paved road? Or I know a town road extends 25 feet from the center of the road. So if you go 25 feet from the center of the road, you're already several feet into their yards. Is it 1 to 3 feet from that line?
So yes, to your answer, your second question really is more is the necessary easement beyond the town's setback? The answer would be yes. Now, please understand, these are preliminary drawings, okay? And we know it's a hot topic.
So from the current center of the road, 25 feet may already be 8 feet into their lawn in some houses. Because of the way the roads are paved, yes. So now you could be taking 8 feet plus 1 to 3 feet. A lot of these frontages are only 20, 30 feet deep.
All I can say to you is the illustration shows beyond, I understand what you're saying. The illustration shows beyond the town's easement. If there was town setback was involved, which a large part of it is already, that's where the sidewalks currently exist and other things. And I know, for instance, you probably are true at your house too. We all do, to your point. Part of your front lawn is town easement, okay? We all have that. If there's not a sidewalk there, certainly we all have that. I know I mow grass that's towns, as do you. So, hope that answers your question.
Kennedy Drive. I noticed that on Parent Square today, this was put out on Parent Square, which are you familiar with it? That is an app for school children and schools to speak with children and people. It's not an app for town business. That should not have been brought up. This is already biased. By posting that and sending it to every parent in this town about this meeting and only posting one side of it, which is fluffy bunnies jumping through the woods, not the poor people from the streets that are getting their property taken. That should have never been posted on that app. Never.
Sir, I'm not going to disagree with you. I did not post that. I had nothing to do with it. I know you did. Okay, by someone associated with the town. I can see that. Not by my office, not by the Board of Selectmen.
One side.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
That's a violation of those rules. That should be used for emergency and school only.
Chip Hunter for 99 Pleasant View Road. My question goes to the DOT representative, and I would ask, what is the purpose of this project? Is the first question. And my follow-up question is, how does this location suit that purpose, and what other locations were reviewed and talked to with the townspeople before we made this decision?
So that is a two-part question, and it really requires answers from two of our professionals here. Regarding the various different options, I will bring that to our councils of government who reviewed numerous options who can speak to that.
Yeah, so just to clarify a couple points before I directly answer the question. We are the councils of governments, not the state DOT. The state DOT is involved in this project only as the funding entity and then to assist the town in various aspects of it. And so, in that capacity, the DOT's role in this is only at the town's request or to provide the state funding. We as the Council of Governments are in a similar capacity here for only a couple purposes. And so first off, this is not a COG run project. We are here to provide and administer this funding program. And just a little bit of background on LOCSIP. It is a program that was created by the state legislature. It uses state dollars to help us, or to assist towns across the state in local roadway capital improvements. And so the ultimate purpose of this project, I'll start at that point. This was brought to us by the town as a reconstruction of the road to help address some of the drainage issues that exist out there currently and some of the deficiencies in the existing infrastructure. And I'll let Ty and Bond talk further about some of the ultimate driver behind this, the roadway project itself. So the Greenway portion, which I can speak a bit too about here, is so the Naugatuck River Greenway is an idea that was actually created by the National Park Service about 20-something years ago, and has been carried forward by a steering committee made up of representatives of each of the towns along the route. It is envisioned to be a 44-mile connection between Torrington and Derby that will help restore access to the Naugatuck River, connect the historic downtowns, help bring back, help to revitalize those towns' economies, as well as provide a transportation alternative, and in some places provide access back to a river that we as a region have really turned our backs on. You know, I think we all remember the Naugatuck River has not always had the best, not always been the best representation of, what a river in Connecticut could be. But we've had a lot of success in cleaning that river up over the years. And so now that it is now that it's a better place, we want to help bring people back to it. So the Naugatuck River Greenway has been a project that we as an entity have helped to move forward in all of the towns along its route in our region. Part of that work involved routing studies. And so an initial routing study was completed in 2010. A secondary, more detailed study for Thomaston was completed in 2020. In those routing studies, we looked at all of the possible options. And so 3 routes were really considered for this segment here. There was an option that would follow directly along the river, behind the buildings on River Street. There's an option that would go up River Street, and this option that goes up Elm Street. Of those 3 options, there were pros and cons to each, and they were all considered. The Elm Street alternative was going to be the most likely to be constructible, was going to have the fewest total property impacts, and was going to be the least expensive, which is why that was listed as the preferred alternative. River Street's pretty narrow, there's not a lot of room to be able to do something like this there, and to build behind those buildings would be entirely on private property or into the river, which would require Army Corps permits and be extremely difficult, if at all possible, to build. And so those were the other routes that were considered. We're talking about a short piece here, but overall, this same process has been followed the length from Torrington down through Derby. Segments already exist in Derby and Ansonia and Seymour, Beacon Falls, Naugatuck, and Waterbury. There's design work happening in other towns up and down the line. In Torrington, which is outside of the Naugatuck Valley Cog region, but has also built a good section of this already. And so, I hope that answers the question about some of the other routes that were considered and why this has been listed as the preferred alternative.
Thank you, Rich. First, second part, what is the total scope of the project?
So you were asking about the improvements to the roadway itself. So as many of you, that live there or travel the road know that it's in pretty bad shape right now. There's a lot of utility trenches that have been really cutting up the road. There are drainage issues out there, ponding on the roadway. So this project will look to do a full depth reconstruction of the roadway. So you'll get a nice solid base and new asphalt. We'll also be providing curb on both sides of the road throughout the whole corridor, which doesn't exist now. This will also help with drainage and divert to the catch basins instead of flowing over private property. We're providing 2 11-foot lanes, and in this option, again, we have included parking. That was a big push for the people that lived on the road, was the ability to keep legal parking on the roadway. So those are the improvements to the road, and adding the trail to this project just makes sense for the fact that the contractor's already out there. You have the equipment mobilized, and it just provides a good benefit, accommodation for the townspeople.
Thank you. I might add, certainly, so to that, funding is in place for the LoCIP funding that I already previously mentioned. But in addition to that, we also heard from the residents that they were concerned about speed on the road. And we're looking to incorporate raised crosswalks with signalized crossing. That signalized crossing is called rapid flashing beacons. They're not connected to traffic lights. And honestly, even those that are on traffic lights do not necessarily guarantee safe passage. And you have to rely on drivers on those roads to be interested in that as well. But at least it alerts drivers that somebody wants to walk across this crosswalk. And the raised crosswalks, which would be 3 inches, will slow down traffic. They're not speed bumps. We don't want to put in speed bumps. Don't work. You can't plow roads when there's speed bumps. But this raised crosswalks will slow down the traffic somewhat, because people maybe not the first time they ride over it, but certainly after that they'll realize that it's there and they're going to want to slow down a little bit. So we're trying to incorporate some smart design into this work as well. That's the total concept. The Greenway aspect is only one portion of the total project. I know a question will come up, and if it hasn't already, will we lose the funding? we will not lose the funding if that aspect of it is not incorporated into the design. So we will still be able to do the road and the improvements regarding that and sidewalks. Other questions? Yes, sir. Pardon me? Please, sir. Okay.
You've got the same thing. Richard Corman, 24 Goodwin Court. All right. You've got this brilliant idea where the Greenway is one element of a brilliant design to fix a road. My question is, why do we need a Greenway unless I'm geographically challenged and unless climate change brings the Naugatuck River up Elm Street? To what the Naugatuck Valley Regional Authority is trying to do. You are going to run from the tattoo parlor to Plymouth Glass. It starts nowhere, it ends nowhere, it is a greenway to nowhere. Where is this thinking of with anything that makes any sense?
While this is at this point in time, we're going to let Rich address this. While this at this point in time is certainly a segment in isolation, I'm not denying that. However, there's greater plan, and this would be one segment that would be needed to connect both sides of town, so to speak. All right? This would ultimately get us down to East Main Street, but, you know, the other portions are to come. Rich, you want to just talk about that a little?
Yeah. So just to reiterate the point, we did look at staying along the river here. We would love to be able to stay along the river for the entire length. But the reality is that it's just, in many places it's not feasible, and it's not constructible or economically feasible. And this is one of those places, you know, we as a region, we developed along this river, and we developed as an industrial region. And one of the side effects of that is we have buildings that back right up to the river. And so the engineering required to build this directly along the river through this section would be, again, just not constructible. And would require it exists almost entirely on private property, which is something we'd like to avoid. The other element to that is a secondary function of the Naugatuck River Greenway is to help with the economic revitalization of many of the towns up and down the river. And so in that capacity, we're trying to connect not only the river itself, but to the downtowns and to the economic corridors in the region. And this is not just in Thomaston that this is happening. The trail does break away from the river in many towns up and down. With that purpose, with the goal of helping to bring people closer to the businesses and services in town that can help, that can both be a great amenity for those using the Greenway and can help bring more business to those existing entities. And so Elm Street helps to bring this a bit closer to the existing downtown and to some of those, to the businesses that make up Main Street. So that is the piece about it not being along the river. Again, we would love to see this stay directly on the river the whole way, and it's just not something we can do in our region. As far as it being a short segment that has seemingly no connection on either end, so there's a couple pieces to that. The first is this would not be the first of those segments, and this is part of the problem of building a greenway. We don't have necessarily the direct and consistent funding sources that the highway program had when we built the interstate highway program, or when we built the interstate highways through the federal interstate highway program. And so it's not possible necessarily to build this whole thing at once. To build these 45 miles all together would require a massive undertaking and a huge infusion of both federal and state dollars that just is not there to do. However, the next segment of this, immediately south of here, is underway. There were federal transportation alternative dollars, and so the TA program is a set aside out of the Federal Highway Trust Fund. It exists, it has existed now for about 30 years. The state DOT administers that program and did award funds to Thomaston to build a segment that will end at the intersection of Maple and Elm Street and continue down to Watertown Avenue. That piece will get to follow more closely to the river. And so that is, that is currently underway. We've been working on that for a while, putting together a full funding package to ensure that that piece can be built and can be built to the same high quality that we're hoping for here, which will eventually bring us down, again, to Watertown Avenue, where we'll meet with other projects that are in early planning stages immediately south of that, and then further stages. There's a segment that is already designed in the south end here of Thomaston. There's a segment that is under designed at the north end of Watertown, where that segment will meet, which will get us a pretty good chunk of the way down and meet up with some of the existing pieces of the project, further south in Waterbury and down.
Mr. Moore, please take the mic away from him. He's enough inches here.
All right, that's not a problem. Thank you. We're moving on. You asked, we're providing. Certainly. Let me get this to you.
Jean Corman, 24 Goodwin Court. We all, not all of us, but many of us lived through the flood of 1955. And all of the awful things that came down the river, all of the radiation from the clocks from Seth Thomas. So my question to all of you is, has anything been looked at for the properties where you are putting this stuff? Is it safe? Is it safe? Have you tested it?
I defer. Not really been tested in any way, because I don't believe so. Rich, the question raised was, we've not done any sample, have we? Yeah. So simply my answer to you, ma'am, is after consulting heroes, we've not done any testing of the soils. The state of Connecticut, generally speaking, if they feel it's necessary, they instruct us to do those kinds of things. At least I've known that to happen on other projects, not in our town, but elsewhere, as I'm involved on councils of government, and I know what happens countywide, let's say. It's not countywide, anyways. So.
Right here, this piece you have right here.
Yes.
On the end, where is that? Is that Meadow Street?
No,
So,
not even.
this
No,
East Main. The other end,
where is, show me what?
South Main.
That's South Main.
South Main. This is a section.
So where?
This is a section that would match up with this line here to continue down, but you just can't get all on one sheet.
Where is that?
Where's what? This?
Only Elm Street.
This is East Main Street.
So.
So from South Main along Elm to East Main is what we're talking about here.
By Seth Thomas.
By Seth Thomas.
Where was he walking?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. I'm going to come back, okay? Yeah, this woman is... Okay, I'm Sarah. Thank you. No, is the mic working?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions. My name first is Tammy Melhott. I live on Maple Street, which is right off of where they're showing this.
Correct.
The first question I have is how will this affect traffic during anything that takes place on Route 6, aka our Main Street, where it is shut down? For example, during the car shows, during our Light of the Town, during parades, everything that is then filtered to Elm Street. How is this going to affect the traffic that is already a jam up during these functions?
I don't see anything.
So we're continuing to provide a 2-lane road, 11-foot wide. It's really a matter of what the police would do during an event. They would have to take control. We're providing traffic in both directions under our plan.
Okay. The second question I have is you're also talking about taking some pieces of property on homes that already have small frontage to the main street of Elm Street. You're going to leave these homes with less land than they already have. How do you think that's going to affect their resale value? How do you think that's going to affect your tax bracket? Because based on the property and the home is what we pay taxes on. So if we lose property, we shouldn't have to pay tax on that property, correct?
The reduction of the property would be seen on the assessment. Again, I don't know how much of a change or reduction it would be for, let us even say as much as 3 feet of property frontage. I can't calculate that, but if it occurs, then certainly it would be taken into consideration for assessment, and that aspect of the property would be, the land would be less on the assessment.
Thereby,
let me just, and if I may, okay, you're thinking of it as a detriment. Some folks may see this as an asset to property for sale because now I have an ability. Now I have the ability to have access to a greenway that goes right by my property. There may be some, granted, there are some folks who don't want it, I understand, but there may be that.
I've got to kiss the bumpers on my car's parked.
Who may live there.
excuse me, Mr. Edmond, I will tell you that the majority of people I have spoken to on Elm Street and on Maple Street and the surrounding streets do not want people, strangers of any kind, walking up and down in front of their homes all the time.
Question, please. All right, going back here. Mary?
Yep. Hello, I'm Mary Lucilla. I live on Prairie Hill Road, and I've got some pointed things to think about with the value of people's homes. I do think that the economic development in our downtown needs this kind of program, project, and this support has already been made. I have a couple of points I'd like to say about time bond. When you're working with them and they are on your site, because there's some kind of construction coming, it's happening anyway, that Time Bond is a very reputable company. They don't want to mess with people being really devalued. I promise you that happened to my property. I was very protective of it. Speak up. They hear you now, and they're going to hear you later, too. I promise you. The other things are any extra expenses going to be made to our town? Because we've already planned for this greenway. If it does or it doesn't happen, do we have to go through re-engineering expense because we declined to have this happen? Are we already at one full end, or do we expect to spend more money because we don't want this to happen as planned? Number 3, I guess, my question would be, can or do we have any other future plans that have been expensed to or planned for this in our community? What we've already done with downtown, and I speak from experience, is that we have been working on economic development in a very big way. Historically, we want to take respect to whatever the town has got going on from its history to where we are now and what we want to be in our future. And if we don't think a little bit beyond where we are now, I really feel that we won't have a future. We're going to have a lot of decline in our economic development. People come to Thomaston and leave. Please realize that we have an opportunity with this greenway, also with other economic development projects within our town that need everyone's attention, focus, show up at meetings, be available, and please respect.
Yes. I said I would go here next time. We'll get everybody's questions, please. And again, please be brief so we can get your answers for you and move this on.
She had a question.
One moment. We have a question here.
I asked if we have any other expenses that we're going to be expecting as a town. If we don't prove this, do we have to go to re-engineering and have more expenses?
I can answer part of that. Yeah, so I'll let Ty and Bond answer about the rest of this project specifically. However, if this piece does not move forward and the town does decide to connect the Greenway at some point, a future project would need to be developed, designed, and then eventually constructed. And that would be, so, you know, there are funding programs out there. Without this project, there's not one identified to fill this gap in the trail. And I'll let you answer about this piece.
So yes, you would incur additional expense if we didn't design for the Greenway now and we wanted to put it there in the future. It would be a separate project, and if the features that we place on this road right now further constrain us in the future, it might lead to more expenses in the future.
Thank you.
I'll broadcast to you guys. I mean, it's the only way we've been trying to get in here as well.
Christine Blake from 61 Pleasant View Road. I know there's drainage portion of the funding that's already into the budget.
There's been no call to vote. You should
Guys.
be counted.
They should not be counted.
People, can we vote?
You're leaving without voting.
There's been no call to vote.
You're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to. You're supposed to read.
We're coming back in, right? The vote's not going to count. We're going to contest it. The Greenway people are going to contest it if their vote's
So if you want to vote and leave, I can't protect you.
Are they allowed?
Yeah, right. Please ask.
I was just curious, in the future, if there is something wrong, like unforeseen conditions and circumstances with drainage or other exceptions, what will happen? Is the town responsible?
Okay, there we go.
I have another question that relates to that.
Yeah, so we've had scenarios like that in the past. One of the elements of the Lots of project is that it is very thoroughly vetted out by Condot staff
Hold that for me.
before it goes
Here,
to
back.
construction. So it should address, ideally, the plan set will be built correctly the first time because of the extra review that Condot puts into it. However, we have one example in the past where a project did have a recurring problem later, and the Lots of program was able to step in and help cover the additional cost to repair that.
Will there be an engineer on site 24/7 or for this project? Like a reputable one, undocumented?
Yeah, so the question was, will there be an engineer present during the construction? I assume you mean during the construction phase?
Yes.
All the ballots
Yeah,
that
so
are
the
going in
Lots
are being
program,
accepted.
in addition to the design reviews beforehand, does include a contingency fund for the town to hire a construction inspector and maintain inspection on site during the project.
Okay. And will it be our public works that's working with you, or would it be somebody else?
This is a question I'll let the town answer. We, again, as the Council of Governments, we do not design or build these, so.
Yeah, we're in constant communication with the town throughout the design process. They know what we're proposing out there. We will be on site during construction to make sure that the construction is according to plan, that there are no issues.
Okay. And then who's going to end up maintaining the Greenway? Will it be us?
It would
Or
be
the
us.
people that live there?
No, that would
So
be us.
it's an unforeseen expense.
It's on the town. It's on the town.
The town
Is that snow removal?
Yeah.
Town will maintain it.
Will the town remove the snow?
On the Greenway, yes, not on site.
Okay, so the town will remove the snow from the Greenway. Thank
On
you.
Greenway. When, after they plow roads and done the other necessary work, I have to say Greenway plowing would be a low priority, but that would be something we would do after the more important task, like clearing the roads, is done. Yep, I'm coming back. Let me get this gentleman with the red sweatshirt. He's been standing, asking for
Thank you
quite
for letting
some
me jump
time.
on your...
Oh, please.
Sir, if you could, I can get the tea, of course.
John Weissman on Elm Street 56. I actually have a drainage issue that happens during the winter time. The place builds up. My sidewalk, I've reached out to a few towns over at the clerk's office, I was told that there's nothing that can be done, but if the sidewalks are capable of being replaced and leveled, then it should help the drainage that I have, or the ice that builds up on my sidewalk that I have to do. My actual question is, if this does go through, what portion of the road, or would there be an elevated area for the bikes to move on?
That I can answer without bringing into the engineers. It is an elevated path that is, will be similar in configuration, wider than the sidewalk on the, I'm confused east-west to be honest.
It wouldn't be a shared space like other towns.
We're not, the path would be a shared space for both bicycle riding and walkers. Okay. The sidewalk on the opposite side of the street is designed only for walkers. However, you know how that works. A lot of people ride on their sidewalks, ride their bicycles on sidewalks. However, this should at least give them an opportunity to ride in the proper location.
Another question would be, if this doesn't go through, would the beautification happen with taking care of the sidewalks, putting in the raised crosswalk, and as well extra lighting? That was a concern. I was at the first or second meeting as well. I asked about lighting. I saw that it was presented that lighting might be available. But if this doesn't go through, would the street have those amenities placed in?
So that's more a town question in terms of the lighting. There's no lighting design. We were originally talking about some decorative lighting and a whole array of things on this particular portion. But as we heard more about it from the folks, that aspect of it has been removed. And in terms of installing more street lights, I would have to say not likely.
Solar power. A lot of places think that have solar power just to give that light in off the power plant.
Listen, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm simply saying currently it's not in the plans anymore. Okay? Could it be something talked about in the future with the next administration? Certainly. You know, we're always open to listen to folks and hear what they have to say. You know, but that's for further discussion. It's not part of this plan in any way.
And there will be continuation of sections connected either on Main Street or...
Ultimately, that is the plan. There's a plan currently in the works, albeit we're waiting on actually some funding that is in place. We're waiting for some authorizing from DOT for some funding that is in place to engineer and build the section from the, I'm going to call it the South End Plaza, where Tony's is. Everybody knows Tony's. Up to Maple Street. So that would be the connecting portion most immediately, which is, and I'm not implying that's tomorrow, but that's being worked on. That would be the next section to see. Okay? Anyone else back here? Yeah, let me get it going. Certainly. I'll get it to you in just a moment.
Jeff Jakes, 129th Lake Street. As I looked through the Economic Development Committee's minutes, there was a lot of evaluation done of the different possibilities of River Street, Palm Street, and what have you. In October, I think, of 2023, there was a full-town presentation with both of these firms also here. How has this plan changed from the one that was presented in October of 2023? You mentioned street lighting. Is there anything else significantly different between this and what was presented 2 years ago?
So I'm going to defer that question to Rich, but I don't believe so. I'm thinking, initially we had 2 public hearings. The first public hearing had no on-street parking, and I believe also no easements. Is that correct? Until we added the on-street parking where there was a need for easements. There was need, even...
Oh, the parking created the easements.
Okay. So the first plan we presented, as I did say, had no on-street parking, but also had no easements. But we heard loud and clear that folks on Elm Street wanted some on-street parking. So that's provided in this plan that's being presented here. That was the second plan also presented. But there were no other plans presented for Elm Street. We talked about funding for the engineering at one time at a town meeting. That's what we talked about. Okay. Not the actual design. And again, bear in mind, this is still conceptual. This is not the design that will move forward to CTO, DOT, and ultimately be constructed. Yes.
Terry Freeman, Stump Avenue. I have a question for Richard, I believe. Do you have any future plans for East Main Street North?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the short answer is yes, there are concepts, and there's a, part of that initial routing study identified a path that would bring it back over the river using either on or adjacent to the East Main Street Bridge, and then travel north up on the east side of the river from there. The steering committee that leads the overall development of the Greenway includes members from Arlington, Litchfield, and then into Torrington. And so there's a concept for that portion of it. There hasn't been funding available yet to do any design on that. The question was, is there a date in mind when that might happen? I wish I could say yes. At the moment, though, we're not sure. Like I said, there's just no funding identified to do that just yet. The design.
Thank you. We're seeking funding all the time for various different projects whenever they become available. But as Rich stated, this is a pot of gold, a pot of money, so to speak, that comes around periodically. And it's in these greenways, as you can tell from this being near $3 million stuff, and obviously it's not just Greenway, but this project has its own number, $3.7 million. I mean, it's expensive stuff to do. The beauty of this one is because it is a LOT-CIP, local transportation capital improvement project, that the state funds. They provide all the construction money. We must only provide the engineering. So that's the beauty of a project such as this. All the others, any other fund we look for Greenway specifically, let's just use that one, because that's what we're talking about, would require a 20% match from the town in order to ascertain the money. So you can understand just on basically saying it's $1 million project, 20%, what do we have to come up with, right? 200. So, I mean, that's just the nature of the game. And this is why we also tried to seize upon the opportunity to try to do it one coast. Plus, honestly, the limits of disruption. But again, depending upon what the folks want, that's supposed to work. I'm going over here, I'll come that way.
Can you go to Amanda? Where's Amanda? Oh, she's
My first question is a legal one.
Mike, you answer the
Since the vote has not been called, since discussion has not been ended, are these votes valid?
There was no call for question.
Mike, are the votes that were cast, and as far as we have not called for a vote yet, valid in this discussion?
I'm going to say yes. Normally that's not the proper procedure, but apparently that's the procedure that this meeting somehow adopted. So people have already cast ballots and left. If they're allowed to do that, the ballot shouldn't be invalidated or their vote would be negated.
Thank you. I would have preferred they stayed for the total discussion, so they heard all the answers. That they may have changed their mind, however, I wouldn't want to invalidate it.
Okay, then I would like to address the benefits that have been talked about. My wife and I have ridden greenways all up and down the East Coast. And every town we have passed through has received tremendous benefits from the additional people that are exposed to that town. Now, we have a beautiful town. The economic community has done a wonderful job of rebuilding Main Street, beautifying Main Street, putting in new light poles and so forth. This greenway is only a block from our business section. Businesses will definitely improve because of this greenway. Businesses right from the
front yard lemonade stand to the finest restaurant we have in town. The Opera House will be highlighted. The Train Museum will be highlighted. This will be a tremendous benefit for this town.
Questions, please?
Over here, this woman, this lady's been waiting.
All night long.
We're trying, we're trying.
You want to talk to me? All right, I know you're not.
We'll all raise for you at the same time next time.
Hello, yeah, Nancy Kitchen at night. Are drops there because there's no study or research into liability insurance for the bicyclists and the walkers should accidents occur on the path, and also the maintenance of the path once it's complete down the road. I know we're having problems affording maintaining other areas of town. So what is the plan to finance the maintenance and the liability insurance?
Liability would become part of our current policy, our liability policy. We are covered with KERMA, by KERMA. You're not going to be familiar with that name. Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Association. and we pay for that, excuse me, while I clear my throat. And we pay for that liability insurance now. I don't anticipate any large increase there. I've spoken to KERMA about it. They're not anticipating any large increase. I'm not saying there'll be none. I don't have a number. Regarding maintenance, of course, that would be required by us. Once it becomes built, it's a town property, and it's our responsibility to maintain it.
Raise your hands. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
I'm saying it'd be a low priority to certainly go plow the snow there. Would you not like your roads cleared first? I think you would, right? I know that's our primary objective with our highway crew. Get out there, clear the roads, make them passable, make them black if possible, which we often achieve. And then, of course, after they do those things, they clear, let's say, the sidewalks around Town Hall and other necessary areas like the schools, then of course. But again, that's why it's a low priority, because no one needs to be using the Greenway, whereas we need to be using our street for good access.
Collinsville, when we build, they have and part of it, because of that road that goes into Collinsville, people walk along the street of that road. If they walk along the street, we use that money that we can use to clean it on the street and extend it somewhere else.
So yes, they could walk on the street, of course they could, or they could walk on the sidewalks. But what we're trying to achieve is put in a section of this Greenway as well. With that said, could the money be used elsewhere? No, this is a load SIP grant specifically for Elm Street for the purposes that we will define ultimately at the end of this meeting, okay, and have our engineers design. That funding will remain in place for us to do what we can do for the design, but it's not transferable funds. It's not our money. It's state, well, it is our money. It's the state's, but it's not local money. No, we cannot. No, we cannot. No, we cannot.
Over here, this lady, over here. She's been waiting all night. That lady.
I know I'm right here. You've asked a couple questions. Let me get back. Okay?
That one. This one.
All right, Paul. There's others who have not spoken.
Right here.
Let Amanda speak. She's been up all night.
Others who have not spoken.
Amanda.
Amanda, you've been asking me for a long time. Please keep brief so we can move. Thank you.
Hi, Amanda Birch, Hickory Hill. Oh, I need to stand. I'm standing up here. I have two questions. One, will the project be completed without the Greenway? And two, do you happen to know if Greenway's increased property value?
So the project will be completed, I'll say that with or without a Greenway. It would be, well, I'm not going to trust my opinion any further. As I stated earlier, the funding is in place for the load SIP, and it will be all dependent upon the design to be sent forward to CTDOT for final approval through our councils of government. So that aspect happens. Can anyone talk to property values?
Yeah, so there's two ways to answer that question. The first is based on other trails that have been built around the state and around the country. And in almost every case, it is seen that the property values adjacent to those trails do rise as a result of their presence. And certainly the increased economic activity within the town is, an added benefit on that. The second way to answer that question is based on the economic impact study that was completed in 2017 for the Naugatuck River Greenway, which did find both a substantial increase in potential spend in town, but also to adjacent property values, as the Greenway is often used as an amenity in sales listings.
Rich. Paul, I've been wanting to test it, so I haven't been that. Please keep it brief and ask your question.
You mentioned a pot of money, state money. This is all funded by state.
The construction aspect.
What's the other aspect?
The engineering is not. We've allocated funding to that already, and if there's adjustments, that'll come back to the town meeting.
Most of this money then is gotten from the state, which is our money. Mostly businesses are what they tax to come up with this money. So any benefit of taking it from this pocket and giving it back. Somebody should spend more money that we don't have. The state's broke.
So my question, I'm Peggy Woods, the other on High Street Extension. You're saying there's money allocated from the Greenway Fund to cover the cost of the Greenway. If you don't have the Greenway, does that cost as a taxpayer additional tax money to have it done without the Greenway?
So again, if you're talking about the state funding, which I trust you are, okay? If we have 3.7 million roughly, right? I gave you the exact figure, I can't remember where it is off the top of my head. If we don't, no, not just Greenway, that's that whole project, the Elm Street. It's all, the Greenway is only a piece of the load SIP project on Elm Street. Our engineer already explained, it includes full depth reclamation, that may mean nothing to you, but basically it's grinding up all your pavement, going down into your so on, creating a good base and then paving it. Okay. Creating new drainage. Pardon me? None? No, it does not. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. The only not for the construction aspect. As I indicated, the engineering came from the town. The load SIP project requires that we engineer the project. The town pays for the engineering of the project. Okay? We've done that. We've done that. We've done it. Okay, we may, and honestly, as we go forward, and our total disclosure, we may need to adjust that funding level based on the additional work that's being done in order to satisfy all the concerns, right? But only that aspect. The money from construction comes from the state of Connecticut. We pay nothing towards the construction of that road, Greenway, or any of the amenities associated with it. Does that answer your question? Yes, please.
Katie Kelly, High Street. The historic hitching posts and stepping stones will be replaced, removed and brought back after the project?
Yes. They may need to be moved, obviously, during construction, but they will be replaced, perhaps not in the exact same location, based on what happens, but the original stones will be replaced approximately, I'm going to say, in the locations that they were put. I can't say exactly. That would be a falsehood. Yeah, we don't, yeah, no, look, I have one up on Woodruff Avenue. Okay, when we redid that road, we made sure that those objects stayed in place. Question?
Up there. Up top.
Lots of questions still.
Oh, up there. I'm trying.
Okay,
Up
let's
there.
go upstairs.
There we go.
Somebody have a microphone up there?
Hi, Tara Grabowskis. I'm from Pine Hill Road. I'm an avid outdoors woman, and these greenways sound like they should be green. We live in Thomaston. We have a lot of land owned by the Army Corps as it is, and they recently shut down a lot of access to our land. I don't see why we shouldn't put the pressure on the Army Corps to put more access to the river. Currently, if you go to Thomaston Dam or lead mine, the gates are closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. The gates are closed after 3 o'clock. Why can't we put the pressure on them to let us use more of their area to let us continue this greenway? Also, considering it's Clock Town, why wouldn't we want to highlight the section between the Clock Town and the railroad station? That seems like a more important stretch of town to highlight versus Elm Street. We'd have better parking solutions down there as well.
So ultimately, two things. So the piece with the Army Corps and the use of Army Corps property, ultimately, well, we're not there yet, and we tried to talk to them some years ago about it. We're going to need to go to Army Corps property to continue this trail north. So at some point that discussion will take place as well. We got a lot of pushback when we had a conversation about it, I don't know, a couple of years ago. Folks who ride their trail bikes up there made serious objection. We wanted to use a similar area, but we'll work that out in the future. Regarding them opening it up to you, if that's a request that we can bring to the Army Corps to provide greater access to the community. But again, that's separate from this project in time. Okay?
Yeah, if I could just address it.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think the question really meant the area along the river behind River Street. And so because of the location of buildings and that along River Street and their frontage along the river, we'd be actually having to build into the river. And because of the disturbance to both the ecosystem and species that live in the river, that's been kind of ruled out as an option. And so, I think again, it would be great to highlight the river in that location, but given the impact to the river itself, it's not doable.
Answer your question, I hope.
Over here. This one.
Okay.
Mine's quick.
I'll come back. I want to give everybody a chance as they go. Sue?
Sue Hall, Michael Branch Road. I have a question in regard to whether or not you put in the greenway. Do you still need easements and potential property? Whether or not the greenway is built.
Chris, that's going to be you.
I'm not certain, but there is potential that if there is no greenway and you just put a 5-foot wide sidewalk there may not need to be as many easements. There certainly wouldn't be as many. There may still need to be a couple where the property actually comes out into the existing road. Can't stop that easement. We need to get that. It would certainly reduce the number of easements required.
Over here.
We have a question up front.
We got questions all over. We'll get to you.
My name is Jim Defray. I live on the corner of Elm and Union. My concern is you've got a three-way intersection there. Cars don't stop at the stop signs. You're going to have people riding bicycles down there like they own the Greenway. How are you going to slow the cars down to keep them from getting hit?
The raised
I think we talked about, to some extent, trying to slow the traffic with the raised crosswalks. Can we guarantee the safety of anyone from a reckless driver? Absolutely not. But we will certainly do our best to slow the cars down as part of the designs into the road surface. I hear what you say about people running stop signs. I do. I see it. As when you cross a road with a signalized crossing or otherwise, you have to be aware of the drivers. If you simply assume you're going to be safe because you're in a crosswalk or a greenway crossing the street, there's no way I can guarantee anybody's safety. But if we incorporate some of those designs, as we've talked about here, it should at least slow traffic down. And we're also talking about what they call a traffic table at the intersection of Union and Elm. So it'll be at 3 different locations on the street. I'd like to go on and on, guys, but we'll be going at this for quite a while, and I'm getting some requests from the public to call the vote. I'm only going to allow one more comment. I'm going to bring it to Julie because I should do so.
Thank you, Ed. I'd just like to thank everybody for being here tonight. It's unfortunate that I had to petition for this meeting after we were told we were going to have one. And that's why I'm asking everyone to vote yes to save our street. I appreciate all of you who have come out for us tonight. Everything's conceptual. Nothing's guaranteed. It's too big of an if for me after what I've seen already with the way this process has been handled. They want to put in something else we have to maintain. Last year in the budget hearing, they cut 50 grand out to repair our sidewalks because there wasn't enough money. So now we're going to put a big path in that the town's got to spend money to maintain, and the 10-foot, one of the options, parking, 10-foot path, no sidewalk, okay? On Elm Street, senior citizens, everybody walking. It's not realistic. So I hope you'll vote yes, and I thank you all for coming.
So I've been asked to call the vote yes for quite a while. Let me simply say that sidewalks will be in place as part of the project. If the Greenway, if it's put in, would serve as a sidewalk on that side of the street as well. We're not eliminating sidewalks. We're adding traffic control, and we're also improving the road surface and drainage. Thank you for your time. Let me just rephrase one moment, please.
Can you reread the question, please?
The question read. Question read. Shall the Greenway portion of the Elm Street Load Chip project, as depicted on the most recent plans from Ty and Bond, be rescinded and omitted from that project? A yes vote